Well, hi, I'm going live because of a request. So we'll see if they show up. Hello, everybody. I was wondering if anybody would show up. I hadn't planned to do this, but Gladys come on there and she says, "Linda, go live tonight so we can have a laugh." And I see she just came in. Says, "Linda, I can't get you on my TV. I'm upset." Well, I don't know what to tell you, Gladys. My hair's still wet. I was in there doing my hair and just took the towel off, and Gladys says, "Linda, go live so we can laugh." So I just decided to go live at the last minute, and I still have my live planned for 3 o'clock tomorrow. So hello, Tricia. How are you? Kevin, how are you? Gladys says, "I got you." So maybe she's on there. So I don't know why I keep getting these messages from YouTube to go vertical with my lives. That way they can use them in the shorts and some other stuff. I don't know. So it would. That's why it wouldn't let me change it to go horizontal the other day when I was going live, which I intended to go horizontal, and it wouldn't let me. So that was the reason anyway. And there's Connie Jones. How are you, Connie? Yeah, I decided I'd go ahead and go live tomorrow too. That one's already scheduled. I was on there trying to watch Wilkes County Boy's video on his pizza, and it's not really pizza. It's a pizza casserole, actually. Yeah, my day's been real good. I roasted a chicken and put that on video, and oh, Gladys said she saw the chicken. It looked good. I wanted to roast the chicken, and I didn't want to heat the house up by putting it in the oven, so I put it out on my grill because my grill heats up, to 4, 5, 600 degrees if I want it to, and it holds the heat real well. And I've got those briquettes in the top of the grill under the grate, so they don't burn like charcoal. They just store heat and transfer heat, so it helps heat up the grill and hold the heat without burning so much gas, to run it. So that's what I did. I'm just fine, Tricia. I still got a little bit of a cough because my chest was so irritated. It took a while to clear it up. And the doctor gave me a different type of a nasal spray to use as well. Supposed to work better than the stuff he gave me before. I don't know if it's any better or not. But it almost takes your breath to use it. 'Cause, you spray it up your nose. And first time I did it, it's like, I can't breathe. But it says when you spray it up your nose to breathe out your mouth. So, okay. I will remember to breathe out my mouth the minute I spray that stuff. Thank you for the flowers. Here are some for your sweetie. Well, thank you, Connie. Digging my sweet potatoes this week. I wish I had some sweet potatoes to dig. I never got any sweet potatoes planted. And the more I think about it, that video I did on pulling up those, what I thought was sunflowers, I'm almost tending to believe right this minute that they're not sunflowers. I think they were moonflower seeds that got dropped from that pot. Because I had sunflowers and I had moonflowers in there as well. And I think it must have been moonflowers that dropped. And if that's the case, I'm going to be digging out moonflowers come spring to put back in my rock garden. Because I don't want them to take over all my pots. Like I said, I'm doing a little bit better because I got the shot for my allergies. And it took it a few days to really clear my chest up. I still got just a little bit of a cough, but not much. But it's like 95% better than it was. I had that potato salad that I made in one of my videos. And I made a big bowl of potato salad. And I have greens that I ate with my chicken. Because, if you buy potato salad already made in the store, you don't know how long it's set in the store in the container. And then you bring it home, to eat it. And it might sit in your refrigerator a week before you eat it all. So I know it's still okay. Well, I got my flu shot last week, but not a COVID shot. I had my card with me that showed the 4 shots that I've already gotten for COVID. And I asked the technician that gave me the shot, I said, do I need any more shots? I said, I keep hearing that there's more shots out people need to get. She said there is a shot out, but she said it's not exactly like the other ones, and it's not required that you get it. So I pulled out my card and I showed her the shots that I already had, which I've had 4 COVID shots already. And she said, no, ma'am, you don't need any more. You're fully covered. She said, if you want to get the other shot, you can, but it's not required. She said, you're fully covered. You don't need it. So I doubt I'll go get it. Let me bring everybody up on this computer so I can see people. It's hard to tell on the camera here because the chat fades away every once in a while. Yeah, I had to get that chicken out of the freezer because I put 2 more up there. So that made 3 whole chickens I had in the freezer. So that one had been there the longest. So that made 3 whole chickens I had in the freezer. Oh, so let me turn the sound down. That one had been there the longest. So yeah, I had to get that one out because it had been there for quite a while. It was ready to come out of the freezer. Randy Ross, hello. Hey there. Georgia Rainey says, love the chicken on the grill. Well, it's a cool way to cook it. That way you don't heat the house up. The heat, it's already hot outside. It was 94 today. So I didn't want to heat up the kitchen cooking that chicken in the oven for an hour and a half or 2 hours. So That's why I decided to go ahead and put it out there. And it works just as well out there in the grill. Only got 2 okra. What's the secret? Well, if you got 2, I don't know how many okra plants you have. Usually I plant quite a few okra plants, and I might get 1 or 2 okra off of each plant. So if I go around to all of them, I might get a mess, enough to cook for 1 meal. Well, I wish you could do too, Gladys. It tickled me to death to know that you could get up and cook your potato salad. Yeah, the last ones that I picked, I only got a couple. So I decided just to leave the big ones on the plant and let them go to seed. The pods will dry out, and I'll harvest them later and just get the seed out of them to plant next year. That's what I plan to do with it. I got my shorts on and I keep sticking to this chair. Moonflowers and angel trumpets are related. Well, I didn't know that. They're pretty flowers. They don't last very long. But, they keep blooming. I mean, how many plants do you have, Kevin? How many okra plants? Because you need at least 1 good sized row of okra. Or you need about, say, 10 plants at least to get any okra on them at all. Because usually you may only get 1 or 2 okra off of 1 bush, alone. Yeah, if they're growing in your garden, always leave a couple by the end of the season and let them dry on the plant, and then you can harvest those and keep the seed. That way they'll grow because they already grew the year before, and you don't have to buy more okra seed. That's what I do. Yeah, you sure did, Gladys. First time planting, Kevin? My neighbor here in Boulder City has morning glory going crazy, but won't put off flowers planted it by seed. It's going to take over the trailer park. I've planted morning glories before and 4 o'clocks, and I never could get them to come up and do anything here for some reason. I guess it may have been the climate for that summer that I tried planting them. I don't know. And there's Derek. Hello, Derek. How are you? Yeah, my hair's wet because I put a rinse on it and I had to leave it on there for like 20 minutes. And then I went in and shampooed it and wrapped my head in a towel. And I was watching Slim's live with my hair up in a towel. So I had to go get the towel off, brush my hair out, at least, before I could go live. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah. Well, it was 94 here today, and it finally started cooling off. It's 89 degrees right now. Yeah, I thought about going live when I was roasting the chicken, but I said it takes so long and I've got to pause the camera, start it back up again, and I just said no, I'll just record it. So that's what I did. You're a Dallas Cowboy fan, Derek? I am too. No, I don't have an extra pair of teeth, Gladys. If I did, I'd give them to you, but I don't have an extra pair, unfortunately. My teeth won't come out what I've got left in my mouth. Yeah, I tell everybody that I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan unless the Tar Heels are playing. And if the Tar Heels are playing, I got to root for the Tar Heels since I'm from North Carolina. But other than that, I am a Cowboys fan. And Blanca Martinez is here. Hello. Hello, Blanca. How are you? I'm doing fine. Kevin says Mets fan. Yeah, I got to go see one of the Dallas Cowboy games live, and that was really an experience because my daughter, her husband's dad had season tickets, and he had several seats that he was not going to use that particular night, so he told us we could use them. So we went up there, and it was one of the Super Bowls, and the Four Tops played at halftime. You watch all the games, Connie? Well, my daughter, when she was 4, before we moved to Texas, when we still lived in North Carolina on Oak Island, she was an Oak Island cheerleader at 4 years old for the little Pee Wee football team. So we went to the little Pee Wee football team ball games all the time, and she was on the cheering squad. I thought they were just as cute as they could be. And then I, along with some other friends of mine, participated in a hee-haw show, benefit show, that we put on in Southport to raise money to get equipment for the Pee Wee football team. You know, buy new uniforms, all the equipment that they might need. It was a lot of fun. Hellcat, you're there again. Hey, how are you? We're still not sure exactly how old you are. We'll probably never know. How about legs so I could walk a mile? Well, like I said, Gladys, you can order them online. I know that's not that funny to you, but it's meant as a joke. I know that's what you said, but I'm still not sure that you really are 12. I thought you had to be older than that to be able to get on YouTube. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't really know what the age is. Some football guys, they come to my job, gave away t-shirts. Well, that was good. Yeah, that's good. I mean, if you got fish, because I put fish in my compost, you know, my compost tea buckets. If I go fishing and I catch some small fish, I'll throw them right in my buckets for compost tea. And if I clean fish, I put the remains that I don't cook in my compost tea buckets. And it makes good fertilizer for your plants. Yeah, I got 19 in here. I had 30 the other day when I went live. I don't know how many I'll end up with tomorrow. And this is the end of the month. I need to get all the views I can get. Yeah, I messaged Bloomin', but I don't know if she gets the message. She may be napping. I don't know. I just told her that I went live, hadn't planned on it, if she's interested. And I will be going live at 3 o'clock tomorrow. My nose itches. I'm at a Halloween party right now, Cat. Are you dressed up in my Halloween costume, Hellcat? No, not really. I might be going to my son's house. Usually I go to his house for Thanksgiving and Christmas usually. I don't have any cookies that I can send anywhere. You're not dressed, Hellcat? Well, that's fine. I tell you, sometimes it's not safe to dress in costumes anymore. You get into a costume party, you don't know who else is in there that shows up that might not should be there. Well, that's the way it's been around here for the last few years. Cuteness overload. You hear so many horror stories about people dressing up in costumes and showing up where they shouldn't be. I heard from my brother. He texted me this evening, and he said that Barbara was slowly coming to. She's not fully coherent yet, but she's moving in the bed. She's like she's awake and then she's back asleep. And she doesn't really know what's going on or where she is yet. But they're good signs. At least she's trying to wake up. So I said any movement and stuff from her like that right now is a good sign. I live in Vegas and don't go down that way unless I have to. And there's Peter Var, or Ver, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Hello, Peter. And hi, Shrek. Shrek Religion. Sharon Tate, TTT Sharon. How's everybody doing? I'm going to get me a cough drop and I'll quit coughing. Like I said, my cough is not as bad as it was, but I still got a little bit of a tickle going on. My older brother lives in Tucson, Georgia, but the brother that his wife is in the hospital right now in ICU, they live in Tennessee. They moved to Tennessee last year from North Carolina. Don't forget, flip the calendar to October. I use the calendar on my phone, so it flips automatically usually. My oldest brother lives in Tucson, Arizona. My younger brother, Mike, who his wife Barbara is in the hospital in ICU, they're in Mountain City, Tennessee. That's where she's originally from. That's why they moved back up there so she could be close to her dad. Her dad was not in good health, so she wanted to be with him for the rest of his years, you know, because my parents have passed, and my brother promised my sister-in-law that when my parents passed, that he would move back up there with her. So that's where they're at. But it seems like she's doing worse up there than what her dad is. I mean, I said it's going to be her dad taking care of her and not her taking care of her dad. Yeah, it's right at the Appalachians, Georgia. Mountain City, real close. In fact, the last time I drove home, I got bypassed on one of the interstates because of road work. They had detours, and evidently some of the signs were down, and I ended up in a little town right at the edge of the mountains up there, the Appalachian Mountains, and spent the night there actually, and then drove from there on down to North Carolina the next day. So that was the closest I've ever been to that part of the mountains. My ex-husband, he's from Vale, North Carolina, which is right there around Black Mountain, Cherokee Mountain, that area, which is about an hour's drive from Mountain City. So the state line is right there close of North Carolina and Tennessee. County folks, country folks, yes. Well, I'm country folk myself. I mean, I did live in New York part of my childhood growing up because that's where my mother was from. She was born and raised in New York City. So I got to experience both of that, the both countrysides, New York, concrete jungle, and North Carolina, deep south, southern living. Oh, really? Has a Dollar General right in the middle of a weird curve in the side of a mountain? Well, my brother, his house is right on the side of the mountain. And he said, I'm not ever going to try to mow my yard. He said, I pay somebody to mow it. Because their house is built right into the side of the mountain. And their yard is so sloped down. He said, there's no way I'm going to get out there and mow that thing. Well, hi, Miss Weaver. Glad you could pop in. Okay, well, you go right ahead. Like I said, I'm just glad you could pop in because I didn't plan to go live tonight. I just decided to do it at the last minute with Gladys's encouragement. Well, it's a little bit too far for me to really go visit. I would love to be able to go visit him, but it's so far for me to try to drive. And I've never been up that way except the one time I got lost. Country life, you have to live it to understand. Yeah, I know. A lot of people, city folks, don't understand country people. And I couldn't believe what I've been seeing on the news about New York City being flooded. They're underwater. Brooklyn's flooded. The whole state looks like it's flooded. Subways are shut down because they're flooded. I mean, I've never seen New York City flooded like that. And I've still got a sister-in-law that lives in Brooklyn. I know my brother, he lives in Tucson, Arizona, but they're still married. They never did get divorced. But she's living in the apartment that they own in Brooklyn, and then he's in Tucson, Arizona. Yeah, when we get this age, our traveling slows down. And I'm supposed to, well, I've been invited to my great niece's wedding in December, and that's in South Carolina, and I doubt I'm going to get to go to that because I would have to drive, and I'm not too anxious on driving myself by myself. Shark Puppet. Well, hello, Shark Puppet. I don't think you've been in before. What part of the country are you from, Shark Puppet? I know it's crazy trying to travel anywhere. Gladys says, Linda, you make pudding? I made pudding cookies, but you can't ship them anywhere. They're too soft. They'd be crumbs by the time anyone got them. Yeah, I know. I was watching some films from the news today that just happened like an hour before I was watching it, and I couldn't believe how flooded everything is. Well, hi, Sandy. I guess West Virginia, Collie from West Virginia. Hello, how are you? Hmm. Inman, South Carolina used to be my halfway between Charleston, South Carolina, and Tri-City, Tennessee. Yeah. Well, thank you, Sandy. I'm glad you found my channel and you like my videos. I try to do the best I can. I have to apologize. My hair is still wet. Well, I try to come up with simple recipes that don't take $50 worth of ingredients. Because I know most people out there, if they're like me, you can't afford to buy all that kind of stuff to put in one recipe. I like eating simple. Tomorrow's your mama's 90th birthday. Well, tell your mama happy birthday from me, Randy. If I make it to 90, I feel honored. There's so many people nowadays don't make it to even the age I'm at. So if I make 90 years old, I'll be privileged. TTT Sharon says my hair's wet too. Took a shower after all day in my garden. Well, I was sitting watching Slim's live with my hair up in a towel. Well, the first part of it wasn't in a towel, but it was up with stuff on it, and then I had to go rinse it off. And then I came back in and I finished watching hers with my hair up in a towel. Well, hi, April. How are you this evening? April, have you ever thought about being a moderator? I used Prel this time. I switch around sometimes, but I have allergies to a lot of the shampoos. I know I love roasted chicken. It's great if don't want to gain weight, that's for sure. And I didn't make gravy purposely. I might make soup and use that broth in it later this week. And there's Kathy Phillips. Linda, no, I just like coming and going. Okay, that's fine. I don't really have that many coming in chat right now to even worry about it. But, it doesn't hurt to ask a few people just to have them on standby just in case. And then, too, I know some of my moderators can't be in my live chats all the time. But, I told them that's okay, too. If you can't be in one, you can't. That's all there is to it. I guess I messaged Bloomin' that I was going to be on live right now if she was interested, but I don't know if she got the message. She may be taking a nap. I don't know how she's feeling right now, so... Nobody ever asked you before? I think I've got 5 moderators right now, and see, Gladys is the only one here. And that's okay, because like I told them, if you can be in the chat, that's fine, and if you can't, you're not obligated. I don't want them to not do something they've got planned or they need to do just to be in my chat. But if they can be in it, then that's great. But at this point, I don't have that many in chat to worry about it. I can pretty much watch the chat myself. But when the day comes that I might get 300 or 400 in the chat, then I might start worrying about it. Yeah, I know you're there for me, Gladys. Yeah, I've got nice people in my chat so far. I haven't had to worry about it. I keep drinking this drink I've got so it keeps my throat wet. April pancakes ready. I never did make those banana pancakes, Gladys. I made banana waffles one time, but I don't know if I made banana pancakes yet. I might have to try making some of those. I think I've got one banana left over there that I need to do something with. And this being Saturday night, I wasn't sure anybody would be coming in. Benji Black, make a monkey and mud cake. Kathy, yes, my shot has helped clear up my chest quite a bit. I still got this little bit of a tickle left going on, and that should be gone in a day or so. Monkey and mud cake. I've never heard of a monkey mud cake. But it sounds good because it's probably got a bunch of chocolate in it. And I love chocolate. Yeah, I've dealt with allergies all my life. And they're even worse here in Texas. The worst ever in Texas. They say Texas is the same way Arizona is. If you can go there and stay a week without getting sick, you're good. Because they say you usually get this valley fever or whatever they call it the first week. And that's what happened to me in Texas. After I was here 3 days, I was getting sick. It took 3 days for enough of it to build up in my system to start causing a problem. And when I went in and got tested, I'm allergic to everything out here. And then some. But they sent me to this doctor that puts you on a routine of shots. But he said, well, at your age, he said, I might consider it if you were younger, but he said, at your age, he said, I'm not going to be the one that puts you on a routine of shots. He said, you made it this far without being on regular shots. So he said, my suggestion is just keep doing what you've been doing. You know, if I get bad enough, I'll go in and I get a shot. If not, then I don't get one. If I could make my own version of ice cream, my favorite version of ice cream, what flavor would it be? Probably Rocky Road. I love Rocky Road. I love chocolate. I mean, there's not too many ice creams I don't love, so it would be a hard decision to just choose one. I love that cherry vanilla. I love butter almond. I love strawberry. I like plain old chocolate. Coconut. I don't think we have that kind here, April. Well, I knew I had allergies when I was like 13 because I started realizing that when people walked around me with strong perfumes and stuff, it bothered me. And then I was 13 years old when I first got my first bottle of little bottle of perfume. And I noticed I could put it on, and an hour after I put that stuff on me, I was nauseated, I had a headache. Come to find out, it was the perfume I was allergic to. And I dated a guy many years ago, and he was going to buy me this White Diamonds perfume by Liz Taylor. And I says, please don't buy any. I said, because I don't know if I can wear it. And I said, I know that stuff is expensive. I said, if you want to really want to buy it, I said, take me to the, one of these malls where they have testers, and they may have that kind of perfume, and I can test it before you buy it. And I went up there and tested some, put it just on my wrist. Didn't put it on my neck or anywhere, just on my wrist. And before we even left the mall, I was already nauseated. I was getting a headache. I went in the restroom and I tried to wash it off of my arms, my wrist, and that didn't do any good. All the way home, I had to keep the window in the car rolled down and my head almost propped to the side to where the wind would blow in my face so I could breathe. So needless to say, he didn't buy White Diamonds. Didn't buy anything. He said, well, knowing you're that allergic to these perfumes, he said, I don't think I want to buy you any. No, I don't wear perfumes either. When I was a kid, I used to dabble with it a little bit because, I thought that was the thing to do. A lot of people around me wore it. But then I realized, you can't wear this stuff. You're allergic to it. It's going to make you sick. And I've had ladies walk by me that had real strong perfume on, and I would start sneezing and gagging and coughing the whole time they were going by. And as soon as they got out of sight and you couldn't smell them anymore, it would quit. I said, well, I am really allergic to whatever that lady had on. And I don't know what it was. It was real strong stuff, and it smelled like laundry detergent. It didn't smell like perfume. I wouldn't want to wear that stuff. Sandy says, tomorrow starts my birthday week, so I'm fixing my favorite dinner. It's going to be Thanksgiving here. Oh, you're going to fix a turkey dinner? Is that your favorite meal, Thanksgiving dinner? Yeah, happy birthday, Sandy. Yeah, I love Thanksgiving because I love turkey. I love the dressing. I love the gravy, the potatoes, the pies, the cakes, the candied yams. Oh my God, that's the best time of year. That and Christmas. I'm sorry, y'all. I hate that I get on here and I start talking and I just start coughing. Cranberry, yeah, I love cranberry sauce. Can't eat my turkey and dressing and gravy without cranberry sauce. Sometimes, even if I roast a chicken like I did today, I might fix dressing to go with it on the side. And I'll buy me a can of cranberry sauce and make gravy with the drippings that came from the chicken. And it's just like eating a Thanksgiving turkey dinner. Not a whole lot of difference. 3 pies in the oven. My house smells good. What kind of pies, Sandy? One of my favorites is sweet potato pie, pecan pie, and I love my mom's lemon meringue pie. Oh my God, that was so good. Pumpkin is for us and my neighbors, yeah. I love pumpkin pie. I fix it here quite often. And I've got 2 little pumpkins here right now that I'm going to end up making a pie with one and maybe some muffins or something with the other. I'll probably have enough to make a lot more than just one pie. But I haven't cut them yet. But I will. A Butterfinger cake. I don't think I've heard of a Butterfinger cake. I'm going to have to look that up. That sounds like it would be really rich and good. I know my mom used to fix the best lemon meringue pie. And I've eaten lemon meringue pie since my mom is gone. And it was good, but it was just not the way she made hers. It was nowhere as good as my mom's pie was. And I never learned her recipe for making it. I wished I had. Yeah, I've never heard of a Butterfinger cake, but that sounds yummy. Do you actually put Butterfinger candy in the cake? It's the topping, okay. Well, I'm going to have to check on that, crushed up. That sounds good, because I love what is it? The German chocolate cake, you know, with the pecans and coconut and all that good stuff on the for the icing. Oh, I love that cake. So I'd probably like the Butterfinger cake too. And it's been ages since I've baked a German chocolate cake. I don't usually bake a whole lot of cakes unless I'm going to my son's or my daughter's house because I don't want a whole cake here for myself. I usually will bake the muffins so I can freeze part of the muffins, and that way I don't have to sit there and feel like I've got to eat them all because, you know, I don't want them to go to waste. And I cook muffins and take to my son's too. He loved the pumpkin spice muffins that I took over there. And they are good. They got like pecans and or walnuts. They've got raisins. They've got pumpkin. All kind of good stuff in those muffins. Well, I guess I can. Like I said, I'm going to do the pumpkin pie, but it's probably real almost the same thing everybody else cooks. I don't know. There might be some difference in it. But like I said, I've got these two little pumpkins here that I've got to do something with, so I'm going to make a pumpkin pie with at least part of it. And pumpkin spice muffins for sure. And I don't know what else. I'm going to have to start checking my recipes, see what I can pull out that's good recipes for Thanksgiving. I mean, potato salad is always a good winner. I've already done that. Did one on that this past week. Got to go fill the pool for your dog. Roasted pumpkin is good, yeah. It's all good. That's the problem. I love to eat. I love food, and there's not a whole lot that I don't like to eat. So I've learned I've got to push it away, you know. Yeah, she said she's coming back. She's just got to go put some water in the pool for her dog, and then she'll be back. No, but my grandmother did. Because she was, my grandparents lived on a farm on my dad's side. And she always made her own butter because they had dairy cows. They always had their own fresh milk from the cows. So they never bought milk. She made her own butter. They grew their own corn to have it ground for cornmeal. Kathy says, I just made a pumpkin cream cheese pound cake. Really, oh, it sounds good. Yeah, I don't think my grandparents ever bought anything from the store except flour, sugar, and coffee. I think everything else came from their farm. Because they had a smokehouse, they made their own bacon, they smoked their own hams, their sausages, all that kind of stuff. They butchered their own hogs every year, once a year. So she made lard. I remember she had these 5-gallon lard stands that were full of lard. That's what she used for frying. She always used it to put in her biscuits. Anytime she needed oil or anything like that, she went to that lard stand. I don't remember how they made it really, but I do remember seeing them with the milk in a gallon or half-gallon jar with a lid, and it would be shaken. Yeah, they made their own lard every year. And that was, and you know, they tell you nowadays that was the healthiest oil you could fry anything in was lard. And they made theirs every year from their hogs that they slaughtered every year. Yeah, that was some good butter when it's homemade like that from fresh cow milk. And I got an uncle that was from a farm, and he'd always bring me fresh cottage cheese because he would make his own cottage cheese from his cows. I don't think any of my family wanted cottage cheese, but I'd eat a little of it. I wasn't crazy about it, but I liked it okay. You know, I would eat some. Yeah, my grandmother, she wanted fried chicken for Sunday dinner. She went out in the backyard. She grabbed a chicken, and there was her fried chicken right there. You can't get any fresher than that. I mean, that's as fresh as it's going to get for chicken. Hi, Paul. Well, thank you. Mine is still wet. It's not completely dry yet. Yeah, those were good days when I remember being up there at my grandparents' house when they were, you know, slaughtering the hogs, and they put all the hog fat in this great big black pot out in the backyard on a fire. And it reminded me of an old black witch's pot you see in the movies, you know, really great big pot. You could almost get in it and sit down. And they'd fry that fat from the hogs until, you know, when it was cut in pieces, little pieces, they would fry it until it was kind of crispy. And then they'd scoop it out with a little, like a net, so it would drain. And all the oil that was left in that black pot, they let cool, and they poured in the lard stands, and that was their lard. And all the fat that was cooked, that was cracklings, or pork rinds, as you buy in the store now. But some of it that had a lot of fat on it was still good, but it was cracklings. But you salt that stuff and eat it. Oh, it was so good. You're not going to get any fresh pork rinds around here. You'll buy them in a bag at the store. But they've got preservatives and all kind of stuff in them. And those they had didn't have preservatives in them. I know, it's a cool life. And it's a cool thing to be able to grow your own chickens, get your own eggs from your chickens and not have to buy them. My grandmother had turkeys. So if she wanted a turkey for Thanksgiving, she went out in the yard and grabbed one. Yeah, they had fresh boiled peanuts. You could go out in the field, pull peanuts and wash them, put them in a pot and boil them. But it is kind of hard. I mean, it's a lot of work. And you render down the yard, yeah. Well, they always had a whole pack of hogs. And then they'd butcher once a year. And I don't know if they butchered all of them or not. Probably just the oldest ones. Well, the guys, when I was growing up, they were out hunting deer, venison. They'd hunt ducks, quail, rabbits. I don't think I ever did eat rabbit, though. That's something I don't think my mom ever cooked was rabbit. I remember my brothers would go bird hunting. I mean, this was when my brothers were little. They weren't even teenagers yet. And they'd take their BB guns and go out in the woods beside our house. And they'd come back with 4 or 5 little old birds holding them, you know. And they'd go in the house and, Mama, cook our birds. We want some bird and rice. And she told him, she said, Y'all, she said, these birds are too tiny. There's nothing on them to cook. Oh, they had a fit. They would not leave my mama alone until she cooked them birds. So finally she'd just give in. She'd throw them birds in a pot. And by the time they cooked, there was nothing hardly but bones, you know. And she'd throw some rice in there. My brothers would eat it. They were happy. Mama cooked their birds that they went and hunted for. And they do the same with frog legs. There was a little pond up close to our house that they could go frog gigging at. And every once in a while, they'd bring frogs back to the house and fry up some frog legs. Well, I never would eat them. I didn't even want to try a frog leg. And my brother said one time, older brother, he said, well, you need to eat one. They're just like eating chicken. I said, I don't care. I don't want a frog leg. I didn't want anything to do with anything that looked like a frog. Well, I come home from school one day and my brother was a little older. He had fried some frog legs. And there was a couple left in a plate on the stove. And you know, the first thing you do when you get home from school is you go in the kitchen and you find something to snack on because you're naturally hungry. You want something to eat because you know dinner's not going to be ready for another couple of hours. And my brother says, well, sis, he said, there's a couple of little chicken legs on the stove over there. They're little ones because they came from little Bantam chickens, but it's chicken. Go get you one. We'll eat both of them. Well, I didn't have any reason to doubt him because I knew Bantam chickens were small, or Bantam roosters were smaller than regular chickens, you know. I went over there and I grabbed one. I started eating it. And he said, well, what do you think of it? I said, well, it's okay, but he said, I said, it just don't taste really like chicken. He said, you know what you just ate? I said, a Bantam rooster chicken leg. He said, no, you just ate a frog leg. Oh, I could have shot him. But he was right. It did taste kind of like chicken. It was really no big deal. Well, I grew up with 5 brothers. And we had a lot of stories in the country when growing up. And there was a lot of stories in New York with us kids running around when we were little bitty. I mean, my brothers were tiny. I mean, I was probably 8 or 9 when we first moved to North Carolina for the final time. Before that, we had been back and forth. And I had 2 older brothers, and I have 3 younger brothers. And my older brothers, they'd go up on the roof of the buildings in New York, close to where we lived, because, you know, they're all tall buildings. The building we lived in was like 13 stories tall. We lived on the 3rd floor. And a lot of them in the city, they're real close together. I mean, some of them you can barely walk between the buildings. They're so close. There may be 2 or 3 feet of space between the actual building itself. And they'd get up on the roof and they'd be jumping the roof, one building to the other. And them like 8, 9, 10 years old. And my brother said, you know, I think about that stuff we used to do back then. And he said, I don't see how we're still alive. He said, we could have just as easily jumped one of them buildings and not made the jump and fell between that building and killed ourselves. Because they would have been hitting concrete when they fell. And they were at least 4 or 5 stories up. But you know, that's kids. April says, I've got 2 brothers older. Yeah, I've got 2 older. The oldest brother, Billy, he's the one that lives in Tucson, Arizona. And Donnie, he still lives in North Carolina. It was his wife that passed away Christmas Eve morning of this past year, unfortunately. And then Mike, who's at the hospital with his wife in ICU, he's a couple of years younger than me. And then I've got one younger than him, Mitch. He lives in North Carolina. And then I've got Eddie Joe, the younger one. the youngest brother that also lives in North Carolina. I know the crazy things kids do, but they didn't feel fear. They were just jumping from one building to the other. They didn't have any idea that they'd ever fall between the buildings. Yep, 5 brothers and no sisters. And my mom, she came from a family she was the only girl and she had 3 brothers. My dad came from a family of 10 children. They were kind of evenly matched, though. There was just about as many boys as there was girls. And there was one of them that died right after childbirth. So there was actually 9 of them growing up. You do not have any brothers or sisters, Gladys? Well, some people, they just have an only child. That's just the way it ends up. And you're 65, April. Well, you're just at retirement age now. Invincible. Well, with my dad having 9 brothers and sisters, and they all lived around our hometown in North Carolina. So I had a lot of family around me growing up. My great-grandparents were still alive when I was little in North Carolina. I remember when my grandmammy died. And that left just my grandparents there. And I remember when they passed. Sandy says, I was one of 7 and I'm the only one left now. Lost my last sister and brother to COVID. Oh, I'm so sorry, Sandy. Connie says, I had 7 sisters and 3 brothers, 11 kids total. That was a huge family. That was a lot of meal times. That was a lot of food at meal times. We lived in a house that my dad built because we lived in New York and he didn't like New York. I was actually born in North Carolina. They moved back to New York when I was about 3 or 4. And then he stayed in the Navy until Mom said, or he just finally said, I'm not living in New York anymore. And my mom wanted him to get out of the service, to stay home. Because she said, I got too many kids, you got to stay home and help. Because he was making the Navy a career. So he was in about 13 years. And so we moved from New York back to North Carolina for the final time. And he built a house, a 2-story house. And we lived in the house that he built. And his mom and dad were only like 3 miles away from us. We could walk it. In fact, some Sundays we did walk up there to see my grandmother. My mom was busy cleaning house, and we'd ask Mama, says, Mama, can we walk up to Grandma's house? And she'd first say no, and she said, please, let us go to Grandma's. And she'd say, sure, go ahead, just watch for cars. So we'd walk 3 miles up to my grandmother's house. Because, it was out in the country, not that much traffic, so might have a tractor once in a while come down the highway. Yeah, that was the good old days. Those days are gone, unfortunately. Fond memories. The times are gone, but the memories are still there. Well, good for you, Connie. I know your neighbors love you to death. You out there cooking for them and taking care of them. Most of my neighbors around here are younger than I am. Georgia says I'm going back to the country. Well, I felt like I was in the country living here, even though I was right almost in town, because all the lots around me were vacant. You know, there was no homes built on them. They'd never been cleared, so it looked like woods all around me. And now, for the last couple of years, people have been moving in. They're buying lots, they're clearing lots, they're building homes, just like they did across the street. They built them over behind me, down on the other side of me, and now adjoining my lot over here, a realtor has bought it, and they're getting ready to build a house there that she's going to turn around and sell to make a profit. So that's what she does for a living. She's a realtor, and she buys up property, builds homes, and then resells them. Linda, I think they found me on the sidewalk. What do you mean they found you on the sidewalk, Gladys? And the thing of it is, they're building houses on these small lots. They're like 100 feet or 105 feet by 50 foot wide. They're putting houses on them, building them, and then they're immediately putting up a privacy fence. So everything around me is getting privacy fences everywhere. I said, well, if they buy the lots all around me and they put up privacy fences, then I don't have to put up a fence, do I? They'll do it for me. Well, my dad grew up working on the farm, him and his brothers and sisters, until he was old enough. I guess he was out of school and he decided to join the Navy. And he stayed in the Navy for 13 years before Mom talked him into getting out. And he served on the USS North Carolina battleship. They brought that back to North Carolina and turned it into a museum. And they have sound and light spectacular shows there sometimes. I've been on the battleship since it's been there, but I haven't seen one of their light shows that they have. I've not been out there at night. The housing there is crazy Vegas. I can imagine. In fact, the realtor offered to buy my lot right next to me that, you know, I haven't cleared yet, that I get a lot of my stuff off of to go in my totes and buckets to plant in. And I told her no, I really didn't want to sell it. And she said, well, there's a lot of people moving in there buying up lots left and right. And she said, you may change your mind later. I said, well, I might, but right now I don't want to sell it. Hellcat just left the Halloween party. That was an early Halloween party. It's not even October yet. I mean, it'll be October tomorrow, but usually they wait on further into October before they start having Halloween parties. Y'all had yours early. Oh, wow. You learned to cook from a country Alabama woman who looked like Tammy Wynette and Loretta Lynn? I bet you can cook good then. Yeah, I'm holding out. I mean, she offered me, I told her if I sold it, you know, how much I'd want for it. And she said, I'll give you that for it. But I said, I really don't want to sell it. So I didn't sell it. But she may end up buying the lot behind me over here because a gentleman bought it. And when he realized he didn't own all the property all the way from one street to the other, he said that it wasn't big enough to put a house on. And he's never been back to it. So I told her, I said, you could probably buy that one. But I didn't know who he was. But I know she could find out, from the office down here. Find out who owns it. I know, don't you just love that, Connie, to be able to sit there and listen to some of the stuff they tell you? I used to love to do that when I was a kid. I'd come home from school, go by the country store, and there was a potbelly stove in there, and these old men would be sitting around this potbelly stove, and I'd go in there and sit down and just listen. And they'd be telling all kind of wild tales and stories, and it was very educational, and it was a lot of fun to listen to their stories. So I imagine it's a lot of fun for you to listen to these older people that you've got living around you tell their stories about their lives and all the stuff going on. I mean, I would love that. I got little buddy knocking at the door. He's scratching at the door. Let me get him some food. I usually feed him about this time of night, and usually that's the last time he eats for the night. Are you hungry, huh? Are you hungry? Huh? Just a minute. Yeah, I got it. Just a minute. Come on over here. There you go. He can eat. He can eat and be happy. Don't know if I can tilt this over so you can see him. There he is. He's eating his dinner. Yeah, I bet those people, your neighbors, loved you to death, Connie. Little buddy's eating his dinner over there. He'll be ready to go back out as soon as he eats, though. That's the way he does. Georgia, thank you for loving him. Well, he's hard not to love. He gets mean scratching on stuff, and I try to stop him. But he's a sweetheart. He's a sweetheart of a cat. If they'd have just had him declawed, when they had him in the house, he'd have been fine. Because cats, they use their hind feet to fight with anyway. If they get in a fight with another cat, they'll use their hind feet to fight. They don't usually use their front paws. And when I had my cat in the house, I had him declawed, but he still had his hind claws, because the vet said that was the claws that he fought with. And he said if you ever, whenever you declaw a cat, you just want to take the front ones off. That's what they scratch with. That. That's why people get them scratching posts and all this kind of stuff. And I never had a problem with him scratching on anything. But they had him fixed. They neutered him, but they never had him declawed, but yet they kept him in the house. And I know that's probably why they ended up putting him out and let him stay outside, is because he would scratch on furniture and other stuff. And I didn't know that till I started letting him come in to eat, because I had other animals coming up trying to eat his food. And I I was not going to feed all the other animals. I got to find me some more cough drops. Find me some more cough drops over here. Yeah, I wasn't going to let all the other animals eat his food. And I couldn't leave food out there very long anyway, because the ants would get in it. So I started bringing him in the house to feed him, and then he'd go out. And then it got to the place where he'd run over there and he'd start scratching on my couch. I got him to stop that. And now he'll scratch at the door, letting me know he wants to go out. But, you know, most of the time I get there before he scratches. But I didn't get there a couple of times, and he almost has ruined both of my door frames. And I got some sealant and stuff and painted over it and sealed it up and fixed it. But he still wants to scratch. So now I watch him when he eats. And the minute he starts to head for the door, I get up and let him out. I don't give him time to start scratching. Well, like I said, the vet said you can declaw a cat, but you just take the front paws, the nails off. You don't declaw the hind feet, because that's what the cats use to fight with if they get in a fight with another cat. Or if they get in a fight with a dog, you know, they defend themselves with their hind feet, not their front ones. That's the reason I went ahead and had mine declawed. And I never had a problem with him getting in fights and stuff. He always could fend for himself. Because the last couple of years that he was alive, he wanted to go out. Before that, he was mostly an inside cat. But then he got to the place where he wanted to go outside, just like little Buddy's doing. And he was fine, even though he was declawed. Because like I said, he had the hind claws that he fought with. And that was his protection. And I think probably if those people had it to do over again, they probably would have had him declawed instead of putting him out. But at this late date, you know, he's so used to going outside now when he wants and coming in when he wants and just doing whatever he wants to, basically, that there's no way you're going to keep him in the house anymore. He's not an inside cat now. I don't know. He's been so used to now going outside, I don't know if he would learn to stay in. And I don't think they want to pay the money to have him declawed at this late date. And I'm not going to, because he's not my cat. You know, I can't take someone else's cat and go have him declawed. I feed him, but then he's free to go back over to his house or wherever he wants to. Usually he stays over here, but did you have dogs and cats in the north, Carl? Whole time we lived in New York, we didn't have any dogs or cats at all. Because you lived in apartments up there, so we just didn't really have a dog or cat. Well, it's getting late. I don't know how long you guys want to stay in here. I hate to keep people if they have other stuff to do. Georgia, Ramley, North Carolina. Nilla's my dog's favorite. Kitties like being outside. Yeah, they like being outside. Once my cat got a taste of being outside, he did not want back in this house. I mean, he'd come in and stay a while, but then he wanted back out. And I remember I had to first let him go out because I realized I was allergic to the cat litter. And it got to the place where I couldn't keep the cat litter in the house anymore. So I had to start letting him go out to go to the bathroom. And then he would come back in the house. Are you full now? Are you ready to go back out before you scratch? Come on. Come on, I'll let you back out. Yep, see, he ate and he was ready to go back out. Just that quick, he was ready to go back outside. And since it's wet cat food, canned cat food, I usually pop it in the refrigerator so it doesn't get bugs or in it, or it doesn't dry out and doesn't go bad until he wants it, because he'll be in here in another couple of hours wanting more. Or it might or it might be in the morning. Yeah, he likes to roam around. That's the reason I said when some of you were talking about putting a little cowboy hat and a vest and stuff on him the other day, that I said, my God, he would be so funny, him walking around the neighborhood, prowling around, going to other people's houses with his little outfit on. And I don't know how long he... Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know how long he'd keep it on. Yeah, I always had a cat. I don't think we ever had any dogs in North Carolina. My dad never wanted animals. But there was 2 different times that I had a cat. My first cat I ever owned I called it Tammy. And I don't know to this day if it was a boy or a girl. I was just little, you know. But I called it Tammy. My granddaughter, I've got one grandchild. She's 20 years old this summer. And they've always had at least a dog or 2 dogs at a time at their house. I think they were blue heelers. And they did have a cat too. I don't know if they still have a cat. So my granddaughter grew up with animals in the house. At least 2 dogs and a cat at one time. Yep, just like a man to eat and run. What about your grandpa? Oh, my grandmother in North Carolina, she had a boxer. And I remember that dog was about knee-high to me or higher. Pretty good-sized dog, but he was a good dog. They called him Rough. But he was a gentle dog. The only way he'd hurt you sometimes was one time my grandmother had, she was getting ready to come in the house, and the dog opened the screen door and ran toward her. and jumped up and put his paws up on her shoulder. And when he did, with a force, just jumping and like that, it was enough that it knocked her backwards and she fell. But the dog didn't mean to hurt her. He didn't mean to knock her down. He was just jumping on her, saying hi. And I guess maybe that's why they called him rough. I don't know, because he didn't mean to be rough, but he could be just because of his size. He was a big dog. I think there's a song named Tammy too. And that's probably where I got the name Tammy. I heard the song or something. Yep, boxers are strong. But they're gentle dogs. I mean, you can train them to be mean, but he wasn't. I mean, they're not like pit bulls, they're real mild-mannered dogs, a boxer is. I used to laugh because I said his face was all wrinkled up. He looked gross, I thought. I thought he looked funny because of the way a boxer's face is. Oh, my daughter's got a big dog. I can't remember the name of it. Oh, what is the name of that dog, the breed of dog she's got? But they get really big, but it's a pretty dog. Your dog's birthday today. He's a pug, and his name is Lefty. Well, happy birthday, Lefty. So, Fendi, hello. I don't think I've seen you in chat before. Is there a story behind why you called him Lefty? Or why you named him Lefty? Yes, he did. A lot of times my grandpa did wear overalls, and he wore them on the farm while he was working too. And it was so funny when he quit working the farm and he started renting the property out so other people could work the farmland for him. He started working over at a resort lake, White Lake, Crystal Beach, which was maybe 20 miles away in the summertime. And he ran their bathhouse. And my grandma and my aunts and everybody used to tease him and said the only reason he wanted to work over there was so he could see all those pretty ladies walk around in their bathing suits. He said he'd laugh and he'd say, well, that's what keeps me young. Yep, my grandpa wore overalls. I've got many pictures that I've seen of him and that I do have of him wearing overalls. Now, there was times he didn't wear them, but most of the time he had a pair of overalls on. And he was a tall man. He was about 6'2", 3", maybe even hit 6'5". I don't know, but I remember him being a tall man. My grandpas on both sides, my mom's dad and my dad's dad, were both over 6 feet. Oh, it'd take me forever to find them now. I've got them back away in photo albums put up. I remember my Aunt Gladys one time, she raised a little pig, She kept him in the house when he was little, and she took care of that little thing like he was her baby. I mean, she thought the world of that pig, and I think he loved her to death. And finally, he got so big she had to put him outside. And when that pig died, well, that hog died. He was big. I bet he weighed 600 pounds. And she refused to let anybody kill him, to butcher him. And they kept telling her, said, man, you need to butcher that hog and eat that meat. That's a lot of meat going to waste right there. She never would let nobody touch that hog. That was her baby. I don't care how big he was. And she was like 4'5". There's a picture of her standing next to that hog, and her head is about even with the back of that hog. That's how tall he was, how big that hog was. But she refused to let anybody shoot him, to butcher him. And he died of old age, and she made him bury him. My mom's maiden name was Ansel Minio, because my great-grandparents and my grandparents came over on a ship in the 1800s from Italy. So they were Italian, full-blood Italian. They became American citizens, and they changed the name. They dropped the O on the end of the name is all they did. And now it's Ansel Min, M-I-N instead of M-I-N-O. Because he wanted it to sound American. Because back then, they treated Italian people, oh, I'm telling you, they treated them really bad. I mean, they were lowlifes to New Yorkers. I mean, they were lowlife people. And Italian people are good people. And I think after they got over here, they wished they'd have stayed in Italy. But it was too late then, and they didn't have the money to go back. Because everybody told them, you know, back in the 1800s, oh, in America, the streets are lined with gold. Everybody's wealthy. Go to America and make your fortune. Live good. Well, they got here and found out all that was a bunch of bullcrap. It was hard work here, too. And they'd have been better off in Italy with their vineyards and their farm life and everything they had going than coming here. But, you know, if they hadn't have come here, I wouldn't be here. You know, I wouldn't exist. So it all worked out. Yep, I wore a suit and jacket over your overalls. And there's Linda Franz. Hello. And my hair is really dark. It's not this light. I mean, the natural color of my hair, when I did have natural colored hair, it was a dark brown. And my son tickled me when he was about 14. He come walking in the living room one day with his shirt off, and he had all this hair coming up his stomach and hanging over his belt and up his back. He says, Mom, what is all this? What is this? Why do I have this? I told him, I said, I guess that's the Italian blood part in you. That's part of your Italian heritage. Because I said your uncles were like that. They had real hairy chests and hairy stomachs and hairy backs and shoulders and all that. So I said that's where he got it, because my dad didn't have any like that. His dad didn't. It all came from the Italian heritage side. Yeah, they were treated terrible when they got to the United States. And like I said, if they'd have known what they were coming to, they probably would have stayed in Italy. But after spending every dime they had to get here. It took everything they could make just to get by once they were here. So they couldn't save up enough money to ever go back. So it was sad. But like I said, if that hadn't have happened that way, I wouldn't be here. My brothers wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have my granddaughter. So, things, I think life is like pre-planned. It's almost like a map. It's already laid out. Because I have planned to do things in my life, and no matter how hard I try, I never could accomplish that one goal, or I never could go in that one direction. It always ended up being some other way. And I said, well, that was the way it was intended to be. I mean, some people may say that's crazy, but sometimes that's the way it works out. No matter how hard you try to do one certain thing, life is not going to let you do that if it was not intended to be. So, oh, TTT Sharon, your grandmother was full-blooded Navajo Indian. How neat. I bet you learned a lot from your grandmother. European. Well, it just so happens that my mom had dark brown hair, curly, dark brown hair. My dad had really dark, dark brown hair, and his hair was curly. He had blue eyes. I've got blue eyes. My mom had hazel eyes. Sometimes they look blue and sometimes they look green almost. Yep, predetermined. Yeah, I bet there was a lot of stories that you've heard about your great grandma being a Navajo Indian. Yeah, I'd love to hear some stories about her grandmother. Did she ever live on reservations anywhere? Well, she's probably got family that did, if she didn't. My great grandparents, I remember when I was little, I hardly ever saw them because I think they were ashamed of leaving their country and coming to the United States to be treated the way they had been treated when they got here. But I do remember a lot of my family in New York. That's where they settled, was New York City. That's how come my mom was born and raised up there. And my grandfather was a New York City police officer, ended up being a detective later on. So he was a decorated cop. And most of my family that were there are gone now. My aunts and uncles are gone. As far as I know, I still have a couple of nieces and not nieces and nephews, but cousins that are still alive there. But it's been so many years since I've seen them. Yep, he was a New York City cop way back when. And he was in on an arrest of a black guy that was dealing moonshine or something back then, and he was to arrest him, and he got shot. My grandfather got shot in the neck, and it paralyzed his arm. And he got most of the use of it back, but it still caused him problems after that. I mean, New York City was a wild place back then. You know, that was the era when they had speakeasies and moonshine, illegal liquor, because, you know, that was way before alcohol was legal to sell. And they had bars, speakeasies, with part of it underground where the actual bar was, where they served liquor, to where everything went on normal upstairs. And you walk into a bar where you didn't think anything was going on. It was just a speakeasy. It was people sitting around, listening to music, dancing, having a good time, but there was no alcohol. But you go downstairs where it was cut off, that's where the alcohol was served. And the cops would go in to raid these places, you know. And my granddad was in on one of those raids, I guess, and he was in there to arrest this black person, and he ended up getting shot. The last I know, my grandmother lived in Queens before she died. Now, back when they first got married in 1925, I'm not sure what part of New York City they lived in. Probably somewhere in that vicinity. My brother and his wife lived in Brooklyn. I've got aunts and uncles that did live on Long Island. Some lived in New Jersey. But like I said, my aunts and uncles are gone. My grandparents are gone. I do have cousins that still are alive as far as I know. But it's been many, many years since I've seen them. And they were little. I was probably 12, 13 years old the last time I saw them. And they were little tiny kids then. You know, they weren't teenagers even yet. Yeah, my sister-in-law still lives in Brooklyn. They bought an apartment. Because up there you buy your apartment just like you do your house. And all you pay each month is maintenance for the grounds and the building. But your apartment is yours. And they had some difficulty and they decided to split up. But they never got divorced, and he takes care of her. She gets part of his retirement. And he went to Tucson, Arizona to live, and he rents an apartment there with a friend of his. They split the bills 50-50 so they can afford to live decent. You know, they got a swimming pool and all this to the apartment complex. And there's a lot of other retired people that live there that they like and are friends with. But she still stays in the apartment. He told her that she could stay there and, you know, as long as she wanted. So she's got the apartments, but they still own it. You know, he still owns the apartment. Well, she was afraid she wasn't going to have a husband, and we weren't going to have a daddy if he stayed in. Because, you know, he was in during the time of World War II with Pearl Harbor and all that. And the USS North Carolina battleship was one of the battleships that was backup to the Enterprise, the destroyer of the Enterprise that fought at Pearl Harbor. I mean, they weren't on the front line, but they were behind the Enterprise to protect the Enterprise, so to speak. Yes, we're still on live. My computer kept messing up, so we should be still on live as far as I know. I remember when I was a kid, they were talking about destroying all the battleships, that were out of commission after the war was over. And when I was a kid, I remember taking a sheet of paper around, getting people to sign the petition to bring the USS North Carolina battleship back to Wilmington, North Carolina, because they didn't want it to be destroyed. So they raised enough money and got enough signatures that they did bring the USS North Carolina battleship back to Wilmington. And it's sitting right there now, and it is a museum. And they put on sound and light spectaculars certain nights of the week. People can go on it and, walk around and see it. And there's a plaque on the ship that has a list of all the names of the men or women that served on the ship. And I know there's other states that did the same thing. They brought their battleship back to their state to turn it into a museum because they didn't want it destroyed. There was a lot of history in those battleships, and they didn't want them destroyed. And I don't blame them. My dad was so proud when he found out that they were going to bring that battleship back to Wilmington, that they were not going to scrap it. Yeah, there's a lot of videos and stuff, documentaries that they have that you can see on YouTube that tells all about it. And it does mention that the USS North Carolina battleship was one of the guard ships for the Enterprise during the war with Pearl Harbor and all that. He was in charge of the big guns on the battleship. They looked like army tanks. Now, I don't know exactly what years he was on the battleship, but I know he was on the battleship during a lot of that time. I don't know exactly what year, because he was in the service before they even commissioned the battleship, and then he was on it later. So I don't know if he was on it as soon as they commissioned it or a little while later. So I'm not sure on the timelines and all of that. But it was neat to go on the battleship when I was a kid. I haven't been on it since I was, well, yeah, I have. I think I was grown when I went on it the last time. But it was kind of neat. But those were some tight quarters they lived in on that battleship. I don't know if I could have done it. I've got claustrophobia. I don't think I could go under deck, below deck and sleep on a bunk that was so confined the way they did. Holiday, you still with us? Yeah, I think my camera, somehow the internet was interrupted because it flashed a problem, but then it went away, and I said, well, hopefully I didn't lose everybody. But I'm sure some of you have some stories about your families or your dads or your grandpas or husbands even that were in the service that have some pretty neat stories to tell. Paper maker, I know where you live. Well, what does that mean, you know where I live? And how old are you, paper maker? "21." You're old enough to know better. Oh, your chat quit. I was wondering because the chat all of a sudden just stopped. It's like it was frozen, but now it's back. Yeah, I was saying, I'm sure all of you have some stories about brothers, dads, grandfathers, uncles, even that were in the service that have a lot of stories they've told over the years. My grandfather, he was in the service. He was in the Army. I have uncles that were in the Army. Georgia says, "Bye, Linda Live. You're great." Does that mean you're leaving us, Georgia, or what? I don't understand. Glitch in the internet. Yeah, that's what I figured. It must have been a glitch. My mom was a nurse in World War II, yeah. And I bet she's got quite a few stories that she's told over the years. Old enough, older than 21. Oh, wow. Africa, Italy, and Okinawa. Yeah, there was some bad stuff that went on in Okinawa, especially. And I'm sure probably Africa and Italy. Yeah, I got another message saying something went wrong. Tap to continue. Oh, I bet they had some pretty sunsets from the boats. And April says her grandma was a nurse. Have a good night, papermaker. We're getting ready to get off here. We've been on long enough Saturday night. It's getting late. April, was your grandma a nurse during the war? Was she in any of the action, so to speak? I mean, in the places where they were doing any fighting or anything? Oh, Susan, black and white photos. Probably worth some money. Probably. Well, I don't know about y'all. Yes, she was. Oh, yeah. I bet she's told quite a few stories about all that. And imagine some of them weren't such good stories either. I bet she has a lot of bad memories about it. I know my dad came home with a lot of bad memories about so much killing and destruction that went on during the war. It sure changes people, I tell you. You can't go there and see all that and be in the middle of it without it affecting you. You've actually made paper before. It's fun. How did you make it, April? Polio. My uncle fought in Korea and Vietnam. Yeah, my oldest brother was in Vietnam. And he said there was some crap that went on over there you wouldn't believe. One funny thing, though, he said you learn real fast because they lived in the barracks, you know, the soldiers did. The barracks they set up for the soldiers. And they had what they called a mama san for each barrack that did laundry and cooked for all the guys and stuff like that. And he said you learned real fast not to ask what you're eating. He said because if you knew what you were eating, you would not eat it. But it was good. If you would eat what was in front of you, it tasted pretty good. But you didn't want to know what it was. Because they ate anything that crawled over in Vietnam. Because, you know, protein is protein to them. And meat was hard to come by unless you raised it yourself. And then it was usually a wild hog that you cornered and put in a pen and started raising wild hogs from it. Yeah, he said he first started asking what he was eating. He'd asked that mama son, and she didn't speak too good English, but she could speak English. And once she started telling him what some of it was, he said, that's okay, I don't want to know anymore. So he said, you were fine as long as you just didn't ask what it was. Just eat it. Labeling trays for my food can preps. Well, good for you, Susan. You didn't count right and you need 2 more. Well, guys, they're from Dollar Tree. Well, hopefully they'll have more in their 2 times today. You sound like me when I get busy doing something. Sometimes I might make 2 or 3 trips to the same store in that one day, and cashiers start looking at you like, well, you were just here. Why are you back, you know? I'm going to plant papayas. Palming's done. Oh, okay. Yeah, because it's still early where you're at. That's funny. The guy that helped you carry stuff out was the one who checked you out the second time. Well, guys, we've been on here for 2 hours, and I love chatting with everybody. I offered to buy him a pop if he would come home and carry them in for me. I bet he got a kick out of that. 4 o'clock where you're at, April. A lot of daylight left. And since my internet's starting to act up, I think, and I've been on for 2 hours, I think I'm going to go ahead and end the video or the live. I appreciate each and every one of you for popping in. I love chatting with all of you. I mean, it's the next best thing to being next door to you and being able to talk to you in person. You needed help carrying it home. Well, thank you. I'm hoping by next week my cough is completely gone. Yep, hi-ho, I go to work. Okay, well, guys, I love all of you. I love you for coming in, spending time to chat with me. I love chatting with you. Love each and every one of you for subscribing to my channel. Don't forget to tell anybody that you know. Yeah, it's allergies, but I did take a shot, and sometimes it gets better and I don't cough. So I'm hoping that's what's going to happen. Well, Connie, thank you for being here. I love chatting with all of you. Y'all have a great evening. I'll see you on my next live. Please tell everybody to like, share, and subscribe to my videos. And like I said, I'll see you on my next one. Bye, y'all. Love you.